Hey everyone, this is Jim Katsoulis. Welcome to another Program Yourself Thin weekly lesson. And what I want to talk about this week is two subtle fears that really prevent weight loss. And I think you're going to find that these fears are really at the core of really what's stopping you and stops most people. So I want to start with a quote that I love from Nelson Mandela. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not the one who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. And that's what this is all about, because there's no avoiding the fear. I think there's just recognizing, acknowledging it, that it's there and dealing with it, facing it, standing up to it. And so let's kind of hop in. The two key fears, basically, the first one is the fear of missing out, right? Or FOMO for short. And this is simply when we think the experience isn't going to be as good without the harmful behavior. And so the classic example of this is nighttime eating. Right. So again, you work hard all day, you're kind of tired, you look forward to that evening routine as kind of your reward. And so then you say, okay, I want to lose some weight. I got to stop, eating the way I'm eating at night. But then as it gets closer and closer, you start feeling this kind of weird feeling. And so that's what we're talking about, the fear of missing out. When there's, something that you enjoy doing and it's associated with that unhealthy behavior. The next one is the fear of uncertainty. And this one is at play a lot. And basically, it's when you know what you shouldn't do, but you're not really sure about what you should do. And this really, to me, defines how people approach weight loss in general, where it's basically this, okay, I'm going to lose weight, and so I have to stop eating all these foods. I've got to stop doing that. But they never think about what they have to do. And so this creates a problem, right? Because our brains are hardwired, have evolved to crave certainty. And so when we've had a routine that we've had for years, and all of a sudden we say, okay, I'm going to switch it up. I'm not going to do that anymore. It feels weird. It feels a little uncomfortable. And so we're going to talk about how to get through those, because once you understand this, I think it really, really is going to improve your chances of carrying through on the behaviors that you want to have. So the first one, let's talk about the fear of missing out. And this empty, insecure feeling. This phrase is a phrase that Alan Carr uses, and he was a real famous guy primarily for helping people to stop smoking. He had a system he called the Easy Way. And so I was reading through his book the other day, and he talks about this empty, insecure feeling that a lot of times smokers will feel if they're not going to smoke a cigarette. And I started to realize, wow, that really applies to any time you want to change a behavior, and especially with the food, So it could be any time. It could be a muffin with your coffee in the morning. It could be, a cookie with lunch, snacking at night. It doesn't matter when it is. It's really just that when we identify, okay, this is a problem, I want to change it. And it sounds great at the time, right? But as it gets closer and we get closer to it, we get kind of this weird feeling. And it's very, very subtle. So I want to be clear about that. But what ends up happening is we get this little feeling, sometimes in our stomach, again, people feel it in different places, but we get this little insecure, empty feeling, and we want to fill it up. We don't want to feel that. And so a lot of times what happens is it triggers a certain mindset. And so, for example, if we stick with the evening eating one, okay, so say you finish dinner at 6:30, and typically you go sit on the sofa and watch TV around 8 o'clock or something. And so as 8 o'clock starts getting closer, you start getting this little empty, insecure feeling. And then all of a sudden your mind starts going, I'm not going to eat. This is stupid. I worked hard all day. I've been, I'm busting my butt. I work hard. I do this to give myself a good life, and I can't even enjoy myself now. And we start saying these things to ourselves. And then once that happens, then we start, activating the typical patterns we have. So forget it, screw it. I'm going to eat the thing I want. So again, we want to bring it back a bit, because I think sometimes we start too late. And once the mindset starts and once the patterns start kicking in, it's harder to deal with it. So we want to recognize that a lot of times it's triggered by this very, very subtle, empty, insecure feeling. And so one of the most effective ways to deal with it is to be present with the feeling. Okay, again, a lot of times we start to feel it just a little bit, and we're so kind of scared of it that we just want to run away from it. Or we use the food to distract ourselves from it, or to kind of unconsciously fill that empty feeling up, so we don't feel that. So, I kind of equate it to almost like if you have a cut on your finger. It's annoying and it's irritating, and you think about it during the day, but if you really kind of look at it, you're like, it's really not that big of a deal. And a lot of times that's the case with this empty, insecure feeling. And so the first step is really kind of identifying it as such, because again, by the time it gets to the patterns, we've got a whole bunch of momentum saying, I bet I got to eat. I deserve this. This is what makes my life worth living. But if we kind of back it up a little bit, a lot of times all that stuff's kicked off by that little feeling. And if you can kind of acknowledge it and prepare for it and recognize that it's really not that bad, if you really think about it, let's just stick with, and it could be the muffin with coffee in the morning. But whatever it is, if you don't have that muffin, if you don't have those snacks or that ice cream or cookies at night, how much worse is things going to be, right? I mean, if we stick with the nighttime eating one, if you're sitting there, you're watching, you're getting to relax, you're sitting, comfortable sofa or chair, you're watching a show you really enjoy. If that food's not there, how much of the experience, how much worse is it? How much different is it? Now, again, I can't answer this for you, but this is what I want you to start thinking about, start questioning this, because a lot of times it's not as bad as you thought it was going to be. It's still a lot of stuff there that you can enjoy. Another thing you can do is you can compare that fear, that subtle fear of empty feeling, to the ultimate negative effect of the behavior. And so the food, again, it becomes, where will I be a year from now if I continue with this behavior? Where will I be 5 years from now? How's it going to affect, my mobility, my health, my personal happiness, with my body and the clothes I can wear and how I feel about myself. And so again, we kind of compare them. And when you do that, sometimes, again, you start to get perspective on it and realize, okay, this feeling, this empty and insecure feeling is a real thing, but it's worth feeling this now than having to feel, all the negative effects and the feelings that come with that, ultimately. Then another one is to experiment and question whether the behavior really gives you the feeling you thought it did, right? Is it really worth the cost? And so I was kind of referencing this a little bit ago where, say it's the nighttime eating thing. If you can give yourself 1 or 2 nights where you don't eat and you're just kind of present with it and you're like, okay, how was this? It wasn't too bad. And then maybe the next night you eat. That's okay. Because now even when you're eating the food, really think about, is this ice cream that I'm eating, is it really that enjoyable? Because I think what you're going to find a lot of the time is you've kind of blown it up into being this bigger thing. And the actual sitting there and eating the ice cream, when you take it all into account, it's not really that great a lot of times. Sometimes it is, you know what I mean? But when you do the full cost accounting action on it, let's just say it's ice cream at night, the actual eating the ice cream might be enjoyable. But then there's after you finish it, how you feel about yourself. There's how you feel physically. There's the emotions of the shame, the guilt, the frustration that you can't change this. Then again, if we continue that behavior for weeks, months, or years, there's the big physical effects of it. The weight, the stepping on the scale, the having to go to the doctors and get weighed. So again, when we take all of it into account, is that behavior really that enjoyable? Again, it may be enjoyable for that half hour or 20 minutes, but is it really an enjoyable thing? And so start questioning that. And that's how we use, again, if you get through the night and you don't eat anything, great. Pay attention to how that feels. But even if you're like, oh man, I blew it and I ate something, don't go into denial about it. Stay present. And even when you're eating that ice cream, those cookies, or whatever it may be, really be thinking in your head, is this really that enjoyable? Because again, a lot of times you're going to realize it's not as enjoyable as you were making it out to be. Then finally, I'm a big fan of meditation. And so I had this realization that what meditation is, and it helps you in a lot of ways, but specifically with this one, is it allows you to feel an empty, secure feeling. And again, it's interesting because that empty, insecure feeling, right? The emptiness isn't that bad. The emptiness feels bad because it's unusual to us a lot of times, right? And so we kind of freak out because we usually got, again, stuff going in, things we're doing all the time. And when all of a sudden we feel like we're missing out a little bit, it kind of freaks us out. But if you meditate, it gets you comfortable with having an empty, secure feeling. You get comfortable when you're meditating being empty. I mean, that's the goal of it. And there's a sense of security with it. You get familiar with it. Okay, so meditation has so many benefits, but that's one specific one in this case here. So let's move on to the next one, dealing with the fear of uncertainty. And believe me, this is a real fear. And again, both of these fears are very, very subtle. So I want to make that clear. It's not like you're scared, you know what I mean? Like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. It's very subtle, okay? And so again, this creates an empty, insecure feeling as well. And like I said, this really comes when you're used to, okay, well, I was a cookie with lunch. I'm not having a cookie today. right? But then in your mind, you're like, well, what am I going to do? Or I usually, potato chips when I watch TV. Well, what am I going to do? I'm not going to eat potato chips. And so there's a sense of we don't know what to do. Now, there's a saying, right, that people will prefer a known hell to an unknown heaven. And I think it's really, really true. We freak out when we don't know what to expect. Okay, so we want to deal with this. And it's relatively easy to do this. So the first one I would suggest is that, say you want to stop eating chips at night when you watch TV. In your mind, you want to articulate what it is that you're going to do. Now, I know, again, this gets kind of subtle, but you can say, well, I'm not going to eat chips. But you don't want to phrase it that way, right? Because there's a say in hypnosis, our unconscious minds don't understand the difference between negatives, something's negative. What I mean is this. If I say, don't think about a banana, right? You think about a banana. So when we articulate something in terms of, well, I'm not going to eat potato chips tonight, we're still focusing on the thing we don't want to do. So we want to get clear on what we want to do, okay? And so I would suggest, let me go down here a little bit more. I would suggest that you find healthier substitutions. And that substitution can be a number of things. If we stick with the chips while you're watching TV thing, you could replace it with, a banana. It's not like a banana in my mind now. You could replace it with water. You could replace it with, baked potato chips, right? Maybe those are healthier. So again, it's not black or white. It doesn't just have to be, okay, I have to stop doing this. It can be something, again, somewhere along that spectrum, just on the healthier side of it. And once you decide what it is that you want to do, that you feel like you'll have the best success with, then you want to, when I say rehearse it, you want to imagine yourself doing that new behavior, right? Because let's just say, for example, you replace it with celery, right? And, but imagine for the last 6 months, every night while you watch TV, you ate celery. Well, tonight, you wouldn't have to fight against craving the potato chips because you would just be used to, oh, okay, I just eat celery now, And so the idea of rehearsing something in our mind many times is really, we're looking to create that feeling. And you can do this ahead of time. And so you imagine yourself going through your normal routine in the evening, going over, chopping up celery, go and sit on the sofa, how you eat it, sit there watching the TV. And you literally imagine this a number of times. And again, there's ways to go in this deeper, but even just imagining it in a kind of a general way, it starts to give your brain something to expect. Okay, and that's very, very important. Now, speaking of healthier substitutions, ideally, you want to keep as many anchors as possible, if you're kind of struggling with it a little bit. And so with the potato chip example, maybe like air pop popcorn, right? Because again, it's kind of crunchy. You grab in and, you know what I mean? There's multiple times you're chewing, so you're keeping a lot of the anchors. I'll give you another example. I was reducing my coffee. I stopped drinking coffee during the morning. And so what I did, though, is I used the same mug. I put tea in it. Right. So again, it's hot water, same mug. I put it in the same place. I'm doing my work and I'm still drinking on the same thing. So most of the behavior is the same. The coffee's just different from the tea, and it makes it a little bit easier. It doesn't make it 100% easy. I'm still thinking about coffee sometimes, especially in the beginning. But again, I'm keeping a lot of those anchors and they really help. I promise you, they're unconscious anchors. Right. And you'll have to watch another video to kind of go in depth with that because that's a whole nother factor that's at play here. And then finally here is recognizing, when you're first starting this whole process of changing your behavior, recognize that this uncertain feeling is temporary. Right? It's not going to last forever. I think a lot of times we make the mistake of when we first start something that's hard and we think, oh my God, it's always going to be hard. How am I going to keep this up? It's not. You're going to do it and you're just going to acclimate to it. It's going to become the new normal. And then you're just going to do that automatically. Okay. And so when you're starting, it's important to reinforce that. Okay. Because change is hard. Change is a challenge. And so we want to put everything, we want to stack the deck in our favor as much as possible. And so remember that this new behavior you're putting in will become automatic as well. Okay. It's not always going to feel like a struggle. It'll become easier. Okay. So I hope these things help you. Remember this empty, insecure feeling. And so I want you to just pay attention to it. See if you notice it when you're change something, right? Pick one thing you want to change behaviorally. Someplace you want to eat a little better. You want to cut something out, but what do you want to replace it with? By the way, replacing it can be replacing it with nothing. Okay. So, for example, it's eating chips on the sofa at night. It doesn't become, I don't eat chips anymore. It becomes, I'm just going to sit on the sofa and watch a show. I'm going to drink my water or my tea or whatever, and I'm just going to enjoy the show. Do you see how I articulated that? It had nothing to do with chips. We want to put that out of our mind. Does just doing that guarantee we're going to change? No. But again, we're just looking every little thing we can do to support ourselves, we want to do. And so recognize when you make a change, if you feel this little weird feeling as that moment gets closer, it's completely normal. And again, now hopefully you have some tools you can use to deal with it. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you in the next lesson. Have a great day. Hey, thank you for watching this training. I hope you enjoyed it and that you got a lot out of it. As a thank you, I want to offer you a gift to help you jumpstart your weight loss today. And it's a custom self-hypnosis session called The New Thin Me. And you can download it for free at programyourselfthin.com/session. And again, it's completely free. You'll go there, you'll answer a couple questions, and you will get a session that is customized to your situation to help you get fired up, to get motivated, to do the things you need to do to really get the body and the health that you truly desire and deserve. So again, I want to thank you, and you can get that session at programyourselfthin.com/session. Have a great day.